Let's look at Chapter 7, Part 1, Level 1. Let's look at Chapter 7, Level 1, which begins on page 426. I want to just touch on the general idea of some of these functions. One of the things that is surprising to some people is that Excel, known for working with numbers, can also work with text. So, if we take some text, I'm going to say Spreadsheets, and I'm going to put 2 spaces after it and 2 spaces in front of it. We don't see those spaces, but we can see the result of them when we auto size the column. If we go to our Insert Function button, one of the categories is text functions, and these text functions can do all sorts of things. Again, the basic idea is if something is already in the spreadsheet somewhere, or even on the web or somewhere on the network, we never rekey it. We just go grab a copy of it, or we do something to it and manipulate it with these formulas. For instance, I've got spaces before and after this word. There is a trim function that trims leading spaces and trailing spaces, both. The trim function removes leading and or trailing spaces from text. This is very helpful because you don't want those there and you can't see them there, and someone may have entered them there. So this is a very good, handy thing to do. All you need is a chunk of text. Notice there are how many characters in spreadsheets? SPREAD, that's 6. SHEETS, that's 6. So 12 in spreadsheets, but 2 at the beginning, 2 at the end. I can verify that. There is a length function that says, tell me the length in characters. It returns the number of characters in a text string. So I can say, tell me how long that is. Looks like it's 12. But no, it's 16 because it's counting the spaces. Whereas now, if I use the trim function and I say trim the leading and trailing spaces off of that, notice it's not going to change what's in that cell. It's going to give me a version of that that has no spaces or no other characters prior to or after the regular text. Now if I copy that and I paste it as values over this, you'll see the difference immediately, and now this thing changes to 12 and says the spaces are gone. Concatenate is a fancy word that means link two strings together. There is a concatenate function. However, it is useful only in certain massive global situations. Typically, when we want to concatenate some text strings, there is a concatenation character, which is the ampersand, which is a shift 7 and looks like that. So for instance, if we say Jane Doe and we say I want the full name in this cell, I could say equals this thing ampersand that thing. Notice I'm referring to cells, so I don't put any quotes around anything. Just give me what's in each cell. That's going to bang them up right against each other, and I get Jane Doe, and I say, oops, I would certainly like a space in between those names. So I'm going to modify that formula and say, take what's in A4, concatenate it against a space character, and I do have to enclose that in double quotes, and now put the last name against that. And so I can do that, and of course if I had a list of names, John Doe, Billy Bob Country, Jose Martinez. Then if I copy that formula, it gives me the thing that I'm looking for. So the concatenate function is very helpful when you want to link things together. Oftentimes you'll have first name, last name, and you want full name. So you don't retype it, you just say grab those things, stick a space in between them. The find function returns the starting position of one text string within another text string. It is case sensitive. What does that mean? That means here's Billy Bob Country. If I want to say, tell me if there's the letter U in there, it says, here's the text you want to find, here's the text within which you want to find it. So I could say find, and I have to put it in quotes, find the letter U in this. In fact, let's do the letter I, that'll be easier to see. Find the letter I, where? In this text, and if you don't put a start number, it starts at the beginning. So, is there the letter I in that text? Yes. What character number is it? It's the second character, isn't it? So it tells me I found that at character number 2. Now, if I had told it to start at character number 3, then it would say, I didn't find that. I started at 3, went to the end, and never found it. Likewise, if I said start at the beginning, but find a capital I, it is case sensitive, and it says, I didn't find that either. So the find function is case sensitive. Also, what if we wanted to find a capital B? There are 2 of them, aren't there? There's one in position 1, and the other one is in position 5, 6, 7. It's only going to find the first one. So it says it's in position 2. But what if I say, I want to know if there's, I know everything begins with a B, I want to see if there's another capital B. So I could tell it to start at position 2, and it says, ooh, I found another one at position 7. So the find function is very helpful, and of course it doesn't have to be a single character, it can be an entire string. So the find function lets you know what is there, and that can be very helpful in massaging and cleaning up your data. We also have left and right functions. Left says, give me some text, there it is, and tell me how many characters you want to peel off the left-hand end. So I'll say, give me 2 characters. There are the first 2 characters off the left-hand end. If I copy that formula, it says there are the first 2 characters. What if somebody sent me something that had first name space last name and I wanted to separate it into 2 columns? Well, of course, there's a built-in function in Excel that says text to columns separated by spaces. That would be the easiest way to do it, but maybe it's not spaces, maybe it's something else. But here is a way that you can use, I just want to demonstrate combinations of these things. What if I wanted to peel off just the first name? Well, again, I can build it one step at a time. I'm looking for a space character, right? Because that's where the first name's going to end. So I can say, let's find a space character. So find a space within that. And it says the first space comes at character 5. And now I say, okay, I want to peel off the left-hand stuff, everything before the space. So I could say, look at that thing. How many characters do I want? Well, in this case, I want 4. How does that relate to where I found the space? It's 1 less than that, isn't it? In other words, if I find the space at character 5, I want 4 characters off the left end. If I found it at character 6, I would want 5 characters off the left end. So I'm going to want that thing minus 1. And let's let's make some of these names longer. And Billy Bob's going to give us trouble, isn't it? This got 2 spaces and it's the second one. So that's more complicated. But let's do William here. And now, if we copy these formulas over, it gives us the first name. And of course, we would probably want to put that all in one formula. And remember, we've talked about how do you build a formula and work backwards. I want it all in one formula. I would say I want it only to depend on A6. I don't want it to depend on this. So I want to replace A7 with the function that returns that value. What is A7? A7 is this. So I copy just that text, and then here's where I have to be careful. I have to press escape to get out of that without changing anything in that formula. So I press escape, and now I go here and I say, I don't want A7 there. I want to paste. That's what gave me what's in A7. And now this will tell me Jane, but it doesn't depend on this anymore. It's all dependent on A6 only. So I can get rid of this formula and it still works. Now, how would I do the last name? The last name, I would want to find the space, wouldn't I? Let's do last name. If I wanted to get just the last name, I would want to find the space, right? And I'd say, give me whatever's after the space. Pull that off the right-hand end. Pull that off the right-hand end. And so I would say, well, how do I know how many characters to pull off the right-hand end? I'm going to have to know how long this whole thing is, aren't I? So I could say, what's the length of that thing? The length of that thing is 8. 5 is where I found the space. So if I subtracted those, it would give me 3 off the right-hand end. In this case, 11 minus 8 is 3 letters. The length minus 8 is 7 letters, C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. The length minus the space character is 13. So I'd pull, I'm sorry, it's 8. 13 minus 5 equals 8. So Martinez is 8 characters. So I would say, pull off the right-hand end of this name. How many characters do we want to pull? We want to pull the length of that thing minus wherever we found the space. and so that's going to pull the last name. And again, following our procedure to build it all in one formula, I'm going to replace those things. I just want this to depend on A6. Well, there's an A8 in there. What was A8? A8 was this. So I'm going to copy that, press escape. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to replace A8 with that text. Now I don't want A7 to be in there. What is A7? A7 is this, where we found the space. I copy it, I press escape, I go in here and I replace A7. I must not have saved it the last time. I think I pressed escape. Here's A7. That's where we found the space. And here's A8. Copy, escape, paste, press enter, and there's Doe. There's the last name. Depends on A6, depends on A6, depends on A6. We don't need these two things anymore. I can delete them. I can delete all these. Now these aren't going to work, but if I copy this over, it's going to work, because this formula works without any other intermediate formulas. So that's a good summary of those functions and some examples of how they're used.